One of the key functions of an organization's human resources, one of the most important for those with unions, is collective bargaining and labor relations. In a number of cases, to deal with employees is to deal with their unions, and it can be that even employees themselves must work out their own issues with their companies through their unions. In this unit, we'll take up the role of unions and labor relations in organizations, the goals of management, unions, and society, labor relations laws and regulations, the union organizing process, management and union contract negotiation, contract administration, and cooperative approaches to labor management. A union represents a group of members. The members are united for a specific purpose of sharing in achieving the best working conditions, pay, and benefits for their entire group. The union resolves conflicts with employers, organizes workers, handles contract administration for its members, and negotiates contracts with the employer. The union is the worker's advocate in dealing with the employer. Now, feelings and opinions can run extremely hot as to how unions are viewed. Since the inception of the organized labor movement, unions have been associated with more generous compensation for the employees, not only for their own members, but even for other non-union workers in a company. Quite often, the benefits won by a firm's employee bargaining unit during contract negotiations can also spill over, at least in part, to the company's non-union staff. Unions have also been associated with higher productivity. But on the flip side, the benefits that unions win for their employee groups can also mean lower profits for the firm. There's also criticism that unions may reduce a business's flexibility to deal with changing economic times and financial circumstances. Labor relations is the term applied to the business dealings that organizations and unions have with each other. Both unions and employers can ideally work together to minimize conflicts and yet ensure fairness to both the company and its workers. Cooperation can save money by avoiding costly conflicts. The two sides can also work together to seek win-win solutions in their negotiations. The face of union representation has been changing greatly in recent decades. Now, there's currently a trend where union membership is falling sharply in the private sector, but still remains fairly strong in the public sector. Management, unions, and society may all approach the subject matter of labor relations with different goals in mind. It's the intent of management to increase profitability with a belief that unions make it harder to be profitable. Unions are out to obtain higher pay and good working conditions for the members, who can then approach labor relations from a stand of strength in numbers. For society, there's the interest in minimizing conflict and violence and seeing fruitful negotiations take place. For example, if the company and union are poles apart on key contract issues, the result can be a strike, and the company would cease to produce its product. Union members would be out of work, and a variety of societal problems for people would develop, from those having trouble paying bills, even to violence in the home. Even the threat of a strike can send shock waves of fear through a community as to what the consequences might be. Corporations, public agencies, and unions are all affected by labor relations laws and regulations. The overseeing body is the National Labor Relations Board. The NLRB supports collective bargaining and makes sure that it's conducted properly. The NLRB enforces the rights of employees to join unions, to organize, and to even strike. The NLRB prohibits unfair labor practices that interfere with union organizing and discrimination against employees engaged in union activities. A couple of key pieces of federal legislation regulating labor relations are the Taft-Hartley Act and the Landrum-Griffin Act. Now, there are restrictions on union practices to prevent employees from working during a strike and from determining who an employer may hire. Right-to-work laws in various states are also upheld. There's a set process for organizing a union. It starts with the union contacting employees in a prospective firm where the employees may feel that they would benefit from union membership. The union extends an invitation to join the group and have workers sign an authorization card. From here, if more than half of the employees sign their cards, the union may ask the employer to voluntarily agree to recognize the union. If the employer refuses, or if 30 to 50% of the employees sign their authorization cards, the National Labor Relations Board will step in and conduct a secret ballot election. If the union wins, the NLRB will certify the union. If the union loses, the NLRB will determine if the election was fair. If it was an unfair election, then the NLRB may call for another vote. Contracts run for specified periods of time, and as the end of the contract approaches, management and the union will enter contract negotiations. Both sides are experienced in the process and have professional representatives. Each side will prepare for contract talks by sizing up the other side's strengths and weaknesses in dealing with each other's demands. The early phases of the process will involve many more people, and then as the talks intensify, there'll be fewer persons actually involved in the process. The negotiation starts with the union making its demands, followed by management countering with its demands. Each side then evaluates the other's position. In planning, the possibility of a strike has to be considered. In the final stages, both sides step up pressure for a settlement favorable to themselves. Sometimes a neutral third party is brought in to help reach a solution. If it's declared that there's a breakdown in talks, where neither side will agree on a new work accord, several possibilities come into play. There could be a strike where employees quit working. Both sides could agree to mediation, where a third party would work with both sides and help guide them along a path to working out a solution, and a fact finder could be called in. Now, this is a third party who examines the issues and makes a presentation of the facts. Another means of dealing with a breakdown is arbitration, and here an arbiter is brought in to reach a decision that will be imposed and binding on both sides. Human resources must deal with contract administration to make sure the terms of the agreement are carried out. The union does the same thing for its members. Now, there are numerous ways to resolve conflicts regarding the interpretation or violations of the accord. There's a grievance procedure where a complaint is filed with a line manager. If the problem is not solved on this level, the process can proceed to the union and management meeting to discuss the issue. The union may then appeal to the top management and the firm's industrial relations representative. And if that fails, the issue can go into arbitration. There are a number of cooperative approaches to labor management. Employees can have a degree of involvement in decision-making. There can be self-managing employee teams that hold themselves to standards of productivity, and there are labor management problem-solving teams that can work in conjunction to settle any issues early on without them escalating into insurmountable conflicts. Jobs can be more broadly defined, and the company can share financial gains and information with employees. In summary, both sides will agree that cooperation tends to increase organizational success. Now, always getting that cooperation, well, that's a different story. And that's why we have labor relations.